Hey everybody, it's Monday. You know what time it is. It's time for Around the Nation right here. TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you today. Hopefully you guys had a fantastic weekend, but we're back. You know what's coming. We got Trump news, of course. We got a billionaire getting wrecked over wanting handouts after decrying socialism. Fun. We've got Nancy Pelosi versus AOC, and Bernie Sanders goes on the attack against the Center for American Progress. So you're not going to want to miss those segments. These are great. But first, we also have angry taxpayers getting mad at the GOP, just slamming the GOP for having to pay taxes, more so than last year. We've got that story on that. You're going to love their reaction. Then we have Donald Trump and his threats for sanctuary cities. And then, of course, more of Trump's TV habits. Yay. So we've got fun. We've got disaster. Speaking of disaster, right now, Notre Dame is burning, literally on fire. And the president, of course, is like, we should drop water on it using air tankers. Air tankers full of water. Look, you don't have to be a smart person to realize that if you dump a lot of water on something, especially that has been weakened structurally through a fire, you're probably going to crush the place. You're going to cause probably more damage if you have tankers full of water dumping water on something. I'm just saying. Get smart. Not stupid. Oh. But this is what we have. We have the president who's dumb. Anyway. And I'll get more into that, of course. But anyway, welcome to the show. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Helps out greatly. Again, really, really important that you do that. Also important if you sign up to be a member or a patron. So the great thing about being a patron is you get the full show ad-free if you are a $3 and above member. So that's $3. Like, I spend more like on coffee, right? Well, personally, I don't, at least not all the time. But most people spend more than that per day on a cup of coffee. So support independent progressive media. You can support for, again, a little more than a cup of coffee. $3, and you get the full show ad-free, which is kind of great. So now, on that same vein, I actually got some interesting information earlier today about what's going on, or what's been going on with the channel for the last probably year, at least. Perhaps 2 years. So I got some information today about YouTube, right? So now, look, a lot of progressive channels have been hit with demonetization. We knew that for quite some time. But also, in the meantime, we had less and less views. And I thought, okay, there's something weird going on here. Less views, less revenue. That's not good for the channel. But YouTube says, oh, no, we didn't do anything wrong. We're not messing with your suggested feeds or anything like that. Turns out, yeah, they kind of are. And so I found out earlier today that there are basically two types of videos. So after Alex Jones completely messed everything up on YouTube, had a blow up and all that stuff, and did his thing on Sandy Hook. What YouTube did is they divided channels up between trusted and non-trusted sources. So now, unsurprisingly, your trusted sources are going to get, when it comes to the algorithm, better views, more views, and revenue, right? So now, of course, you guys are not going to guess who the trusted sources are. I don't have a list of them, but I can probably safely assume that it's channels like belonging to MSNBC, CNN, establishment sources. Turns out independent media goes into the untrusted news. I know, shocker. Which means, again, we get less views, we get less revenue, we get treated differently on YouTube. Now, there's also other things like restricted and non-restricted videos. And so our restricted videos, and what that means, of course, is that restricted means that it's not shown to certain people, right? And the things that can get your videos restricted and flagged are things that are just, frankly, insane. Things that you would not think of that would get you restricted, and that has a big impact on revenue, big impact on views. And the reason that I'm telling you how this works, right, is to tell you why we need your support. So we need your help because YouTube has kind of rigged the rules against independent creators and to try to shove people towards more safer, brand safe establishment sources. That hurts us, and it hurts you guys too. Because when channels like ours get starved of revenue, we end up not being able to continue the show. So that's why we need your help. So patreon.com/TYTNation. There's a reason that we ask you guys for your help, and that's why. So we are, yes, discriminated against by YouTube for being independent media and not being brand safe. So patreon.com/TYTNation or sign up to be a member here, join button, of course. And that, again, that helps keep us afloat. And as a reward for that, those of you who do sign up to be a patron, you can get the full show ad-free. And we're still trying to get YouTube to be able to allow us to turn off ads for channel members on YouTube. So those of you channel members, thank you. I haven't forgotten about you guys. I haven't forgotten about the Venmo people. I haven't forgotten about people who donate to our PayPal or any of you. You guys are amazing. You're awesome. And thank you so much for supporting the channel and allowing us to continue doing what we're doing. And we're going to try to get ways for you to, get something back for what you do for us. So, and look, I'm reading the chat right now. Tank Girl, no, they are not considered a safe source. They're not considered a safe, trusted source. And so, yes, our stuff is untrustworthy. And Tia, this is only the news and politics vertical, right? So I know there's these things like I don't know what Logan Paul or whatever, where he's located. I don't know if he's news and politics or anything like that. But this is just on the news and politics vertical, thanks to people like Alex Jones, right? Spreading fake news and misinformation, etc., and basically scaring brands that are increasingly conservative. And I don't mean conservative politically, although economically, certainly. More conservative as in, we're afraid that one of our ads is going to end up creating, being on a video that creates controversy. And we don't want to do that. We want to go with everything that's brand safe, G-rated. So the ad revenue model is basically gone. It's diminishing. And unfortunately, that's where I derive a majority of my revenue. So you guys, all hands on deck. This is, I hate to say red alert, but red alert. We need your help. Patreon.com/TYTNation. I don't get any funding from, Jank. I don't get any funding from the Young Turks. I am completely independently funded. So I don't get a check from TYT. I don't get anything like that. I'm an independent contractor. Everything I make is basically from the ads on this channel and you guys. And right now, ad spending, or I should say ad revenue, makes out an extremely large portion of my revenue, and I want to fix that. I want to move away from that model. I want to be supported by you guys. So that's why I keep pushing it. Patreon.com/TYTNation. Please sign up. Okay. I've wasted enough time on that, but let's move on. Let's actually get into the news. Okay. So it's tax day, and the Republican Party is now getting a firsthand lesson on how unpopular the Trump tax cuts really are. Now, in a tweet posted earlier this morning, the GOP account boasted that its tax cuts, quote, have put money back into the pockets of hardworking Americans so that they can spend it on things that actually matter to them and their families. What, like a candy bar? Look, as I'm going to point out, that's not entirely inaccurate. The full tweet, of course, it says, well, the Democrats are looking for more and more ways to spend taxpayer dollars, like, for example, on Medicare for all, healthcare. The GOP tax cuts have put money back in the pockets of hardworking Americans, and you know the rest of that tweet, because I just read it. So now, that tweet did not go over well on social media. Who said, and a lot of these, obviously taxpayers, right, said that they were stunned to find out that they actually owed the government money this time. Now, look, this is because the IRS, after the tax cuts, did not adjust their withholdings. So while people did see some slightly larger paychecks, like minuscule, they ended up getting not getting a return because they ended up taking a little bit more money home per week. And in a lot of cases, a lot of people really didn't even notice much of a difference. But then, of course, there are some cases where they were actually told that they had to pay in. Now, additionally, many others pointed to polls showing the majority of Americans didn't actually see or feel any of the effects of the tax cuts. Like, what are you talking about? I hardly make anything different than what I did last year, and you're telling me I'm not getting as big of a return as I did last year? Or I'm not, or I'm going to actually have to pay in? I mean, what's going on here? Now, the polls that I referenced is one from NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, right? Just 17% of people believe that their taxes went down this year thanks to the GOP tax cuts. 17%. Everybody else is like, I don't know. Is my taxes going down? I don't know. I heard it was a middle class tax cut, but I'm not feeling it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not noticing it. So what's going on here? Well, it's the fact that you guys got scammed. Now, so on that, let's go to some Twitter responses on this. Let's see. Frank Conway says, this is a lie. They gave me an extra $1,300 in withholdings, but when I paid an extra $4,000, and so I'm still $2,700 in debt to the government thanks to your stupid tax cut. Andrew E. Herrera says, my middle-class parents just got an $8,000 tax bill thanks to GOP tax cuts. Should clarify, they said that while the Democrats work for sensible government, the GOP tax cuts put money in the pockets of hardly working fund managers and billionaires so they can spend it on things they absolutely don't need. That's awesome. Melissa Dunphy says, I've never owed as much tax as I have for 2018. The check I sent to the IRS last week would be peanuts to the wealthy a-holes, most benefiting from your corporate welfare, but it's twice what my car's worth. Go F yourself. I think that's a fairly clear message. Now, Joe Cat Sr. says, can you explain how giving the 1% wealthiest Americans 83% of the tax cuts is putting money in hardworking Americans' pockets? They can't. You failed to mention the $2 trillion you want to take away from the poor and middle class. Dems vote against both, but the rich are happy. Thanks for the crumbs. I appreciate the crumbs. Now, in addition to what they mentioned, there also was an enormous amount of stock buybacks. So what that means is that they took that money that they saved from the tax cuts, and instead of investing it in their businesses and creating jobs, hiring workers, etc., they just took it to the stock market and bought back their own stock. That artificially inflated the stock prices and lets the executives take home a lot of money because most of their income is derived from stock options. So these stock buybacks broke records in 2018. Rakesh says, I don't know, this family of four saw a big tax rise this year. Thanks, GOP. I'll remember who was responsible when the next election rolls around. Cheryl Pachapin says, apparently not working hard enough because your damn cuts took deductions away, so I paid more in taxes. Thanks for absolutely nothing. Now, the deductions that they removed, by the way, were very, very significant. Now, is the SALT deduction. That's the state and local taxes, right? Now, how that works is that previously to the tax law, if you lived in a state that had higher taxes, for example, New York or California, you were able to deduct those taxes from your federal, right? Well, Trump's tax cuts got rid of those. So it basically punished people in blue states, causing them to have to pay more in federal taxes than they previously would, plus, of course, pay state and local taxes. So now that is a big punishment to more liberal states. And, of course, I think it was by design. Now, PBJ says, love it when we're told what's happening is the opposite of what I've seen with my own eyes and have felt with my own bank account. The Jube says, 57 cents a month is lit. Now, remember, Paul Ryan, when this had come out, the tax cuts, had touted an extra $1.50 a week on a school teacher's paycheck as an example of how much you're going to save. That's no joke. And this, of course, is while schools continue to get starved of funding thanks to Betsy DeVos, whose whole purpose is to shut down the public school system. So now they're losing money, which guess what? That extra $1.50 a week on that school teacher's paycheck will likely go to buying school supplies because the schools can no longer afford it. Well done. Lots of savings. Do you feel like you're winning yet? I mean, I know some people's heads are still spinning from all the winning that we're doing. We just can't handle all this winning. There's more. Kevin D. Empelizzeri says, that's funny. I'm pretty sure it was your tax reform that made me owe over $4,000 in taxes this year. Dang. Michael Glenn Myers says, I just finished my tax return. I owe the federal government $5,000. That's okay. If the Kochs get a refund, I'm happy someone did. Gotta love that snark. Daniel Maycock says, 100% wrong. I paid more this year than ever. Understandably, I was never going to vote red, but I guarantee you, if you try this as a selling point, these won't be able to thank you enough. So, as you can see from some of these responses, and of course, responses will vary. I'm sure there are people who really enjoy this tax cut, people who are more well off or living in the Midwest who did get a little bit of a return or at least a decent, tax year. But I think a lot of people, a great many people, end up getting hurt by this tax cut, which generally went to the rich. And so that's why it's such a disaster for the Republican Party. Look, if the Democrats are not able to capitalize on this sheer unpopularity of this tax law, of this massive giveaway to wealthy people, then I think they're lost. I mean, okay, they're already half lost. For example, you have Robert Francis O'Rourke, otherwise known as Beto O'Rourke, but I call him by his real name, Robert Francis. He wants to raise the corporate tax rate, right? Now you might think, well, that's great. Don't you want to raise the corporate tax rate? But get this. He wants to raise it to 25%. So now right now, the corporate tax rate, thanks to the Trump tax cuts, is at 21%. Donald Trump lowered it from 35%. So Robert Francis is not calling for a return to the Obama tax rates on corporations, which was already low enough. I think anything over a 50% tax rate for multinational giant corporations would be a place to start. He says, no. Let's bring it to 25, which is still ultimately incredibly low. I mean, come on. Now, on the other hand, of course, you do have people like Bernie Sanders, and you also have Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren is calling for a 7% surtax on any profit over $100 million a year for big corporations. That's on top of a higher corporate tax rate and a wealth tax. So at least there are some good policies in the Democratic field. But what you're going to find from the establishment is generally more status quo, which means low taxes on wealthy and corporations. So, and look, I could show you polls where most Americans agree with Warren and Sanders and AOC, progressives, that we should raise taxes on the rich and corporations because right now they're getting away with basically bloody murder. That's why this is a nightmare for the GOP. They went way too far with these tax cuts. They overreached, as they usually do. And now, I think, electorally, they're going to pay for it. Okay. Let's see. Moving on. Okay. Okay, here. So we've got more on President Trump's unhealthy cable news addiction. Now, according to The Atlantic, Donald Trump has ditched a long-standing presidential tradition of holding one-on-one meals with his vice president. Now, in this case, his one-on-ones would be with Mike Pence. Something I assume Pence's wife would be okay with, since there would be no other women in the room. Still, that would be super creepy. But, hey, that's not what happens. But it's okay, Mrs. Pence. Calm down. He's not with other women. No, he's with Donald Trump. But also with aides, and they're doing something interesting. Trump allegedly invites both his and Mr. Pence's aides to lunches, which are held in a small dining room of the Oval Office. Okay. Now, do you want to guess what happens during these lunches? Well, apparently this is where Trump keeps a big screen TV that is tuned in perpetually to cable news. Of course. Aides told magazines, or have told the magazine, that they walked in on lunches to see Mr. Trump, quote, yelling at the TV as he sits with Pence and their deputies over plates of chicken and cheeseburgers. And that's how the president spends his days. It's not really what he eats that's the problem. I mean, okay, it does make me wonder how he is still alive when all he eats is nothing but fast food and drinks Diet Coke. I don't quite I got good genes. I'm the healthiest person ever. Yeah, I can guarantee, no, you're not. But, okay, that's beside the point. No, what's funny here is this continued obsession with cable news. Now, when he sees something, according to the report, on the TV that he disapproves of, Trump would sometimes interrupt the lunch to summon his advisors to discuss how to respond. How sad is that? Literally running the country in response to TV pundits. Oh, CNN said something not very nice about me. Get my aides. We must craft a response on Twitter. And I think I'm giving him too much credit on that. Get me Twitter now. Jesus. That's sad, dude. Super, super sad. But look, let me give you an example of why, right? Of how this works. So, look, we know that the president is very fixated on the border right now, right? Now, Fox News, they talk about it incessantly. Now, they do that, of course, to whip up disaffected white people, white nationalists, racists, etc. But because Donald Trump is dumb, and he is a Fox News viewer, an avid Fox News viewer, he also gets whipped up, right? So that's not what Fox News is actually trying to do, whip up the president. No, what they're actually trying to do is to maintain the GOP base by constantly keeping them in two states, rage and fear. Actually, three states, rage, fear, and disgust, right? So those things, they keep people glued to that channel. Oh, what's going to happen next? right? What's the next threat I need to watch out for? Viewership. It gets them viewership. Viewership gets them money. That's how this whole thing works, right? So now the politicians, of course, they go on Fox News. They get votes. So they also have to go and play along with the fear. And some, of course, are actually that dumb. So they're not just playing along. They actually do believe this stuff. But they get paid nonetheless, either way. So now, this is bad for Fox News. This is bad for Republicans in general. Why? Well, it turns out some of their donors, big corporations, love undocumented labor. And Republicans, in order to get votes, love to demagogue minority groups, especially Latinos. So now if Donald Trump ends up doing something on immigration, which I doubt is going to happen, for good or ill, right? For example, if he builds a wall, it's not going to stop him. Undocumented immigrants from coming in, they're still going to fly over. And basically, it's going to be a boondoggle. The only person that's going to be happy with a wall is Donald Trump because it's something that he can put his name on. And that's the entire point, right? But say we actually do solve immigration, Republicans and Democrats down the line, they come together, we do comprehensive immigration reform, increase immigration judges, and make sure that we streamline the system so that people that we want in here, asylum seekers and, like good people, not criminals, get in and become productive members of society. That'd be fantastic, wonderful. I love it, right? But what about Fox News? What are they going to rail against? They're going to have to find something different to rage about. And of course, there goes ratings. There goes support for Republicans. Again, unless they can find something to successfully rage about. And look, it's not like they don't have a lot of options. Transgender bathrooms, political correctness, et cetera, right? But what I'm saying is that Fox News exists, and it's number one because it's a right-wing outrage machine. It works. It works. So the last thing Fox News wants to do is actually solve problems. But here comes Donald Trump. He's too stupid to realize that. And he's like, oh, I'm going to try and solve the problems. By not actually solving the problems. But you get what I'm saying. He's going to try, and it's going to look even worse for him. And so, look, that's the whole situation. At least that's how it makes sense to me. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. But look, overall, Fox, Donald Trump loves Fox News. He hates CNN. I can guarantee you he watches CNN probably all the time because he can't help himself. His ratings and the people, what people say about him, they're the only things that actually matter. And so that's all he cares about. He doesn't actually care about solving the problem, even though he's going to attempt to solve the problem by doing the complete wrong thing. But it's because that's what the TV demands of him. And so that's what he wants to do because it's going to help him in the long run, he thinks. I've never seen someone care so much about what the political pundits on TV say. I've never seen this. He's hooked. He's obsessed. And he's putting the country, unfortunately, in danger by trying to enact policies to appease people like Sean Hannity and Lou Dobbs, who I don't know if they actually mean what they say. Hannity, he's probably dumb enough. Tucker Carlson, I doubt it. And Tucker Carlson probably has no core, no center, and it's just like, I don't know, I guess I'll say what I want because it helps me do whatever. It helps me maintain an audience. Whatever, right? But Trump, again, doesn't realize any of this, thinks everything that they're saying is true, and so it's dangerous. And he literally gets policy positions from Fox News and lets Lou Dobbs call in on some of his meetings. That is not good. Why do you think I call him the Fox News president? We got to get this guy out of here because as long as he's there, Fox News is literally running the country. And that should be everyone's nightmare. Okay. Okay. So now President Donald Trump has reversed his position on sending asylum seekers to sanctuary cities. Now, this happened on Saturday. So let me give you a little bit of a timeline of what happened here. Because this is interesting because it didn't take all that long for him to completely flip-flop into nonsensicalism. I don't even know if that's a word, but you know what? In this day and age, I guess I can make up words. It can't be worse than what the president has already said. Okay, anyway. So timeline. So now at 7:30 p.m. in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, Trump had argued against a New York Times story. Now that New York Times story basically said that he was considering sending asylum seekers to sanctuary cities, right? So now the whole reasoning, I guess, is let the liberals deal with it, right? Oh, instead of putting them back in the border towns, why don't I put them in the sanctuary cities? Stick it to the liberals. Now, he said on that in a tweet that it was knowingly wrong on almost every fact. Really? Okay. Now, let me give you some detail into that story. So this was according to an email that was received on November 16th with the subject line, Sanctuary City Proposal, right? May Davis, Deputy White House Policy Coordinator, suggested that migrants who had been apprehended and were slated to be released into border towns could instead be taken to several sanctuary cities, which limit how local law enforcement can cooperate with federal immigration officers. Now it said, quote, the idea has been raised by one to two principals that if we are unable to build sufficient temporary housing, that caravan members be bused to small and mid-sized sanctuary cities. So now, basically, again, hey, if we're just going to send it, we're going to send these people off to sanctuary cities and just stick it to the libs. Really? So now that's a really ridiculous idea. Why? Well, for one, if you're Donald Trump and you believe that undocumented immigrants vote in large numbers, which is not even remotely true, are you going to dump a bunch of potential voters into that area? Why would you do that? In what world does that make sense? Not only that, but in a lot of these places, with Cher being the exception, apparently, if you read her tweet on Twitter about this, where she agrees with Donald Trump, I think most of these asylum seekers would be welcome in these areas as they await their asylum claims. But hey, again, that's what Donald Trump thinks, real smart, because he is a very stable genius. Emphasis on stable, because just 38 minutes later from that original tweet at 8:08 p.m., Trump threatened to do exactly what he just denied considering. He said, Democrats must change the immigration laws fast. If not, sanctuary cities must immediately act to take care of illegal immigrants. And this includes gang members, drug dealers, human traffickers, and criminals of all shapes, sizes, and kinds. Change the laws now. So wait, the New York Times is wrong for reporting on this, right? Even though you had just said that that's exactly what you wanted to do. That doesn't make any sense. No, but finally, here's the best part. At 9:47 p.m., Trump delivered the coup de grace of tweets. He said, just out, the USA has absolute legal right to have apprehended illegal immigrants transferred to sanctuary cities. We hereby demand that they be taken care of at the highest level. What happened to dropping them in sanctuary cities? Especially by the state of California, which is well known for its poor management and high taxes. The turnaround here is amazing. First, tweeting that it's completely wrong and everything, and then, yeah, it's actually right and that's what we're going to do, and then, actually, no, that's not what we're going to do at all. No, super stable. What are you talking about? Mental stability? What, 25th Amendment? I don't know what you're talking about. Look, if you want to see the deterioration of a human brain in real time, start following Donald Trump's Twitter account. It really is kind of fascinating / disastrous. It's kind of like a car crash. You can't look away. Except instead of a car, it's our country. So, not great. So, look, 25th Amendment, We got to get this guy out of here. He's a lunatic. He has no idea what he's talking about. Constantly goes and just undercuts himself. I mean, at this point, that's the only person that he can undercut now is this himself by being completely contradictory. So he's got to go. He is not right in the head. And we need the 25th Amendment, and we need it now. Come on, guys. Come on. Okay. I'm going to take a break here. We'll come back. We have Pelosi versus AOC. That's an interesting story. You're not going to want to miss that. And, of course, Bernie Sanders' response to the Center for American Progress. And that is a very interesting fight. So come back. We've got those stories right here around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so back from the break here. Let's see. Was super chat that I had up here from Platypi says, in Australia, the MPs couldn't wait to lower the corporate tax rate from 30 to 25, and small businesses went from 25 to 50 million. Then vote for us, we'll cut your taxes. Corruption, basically. They're playing Santa Claus, but for corporations, corporate donors. So let's be fair about that. Okay. Eldridge Davis says Eisenhower said anything below 80% was out of the question. So let's be clear. I'm in favor of progressive tax system. So marginal rates, depending on how much you make. So yeah, if you're making like over $10 million, that's tax you at 70%. I think that's sensible. And look, let's be honest. I've checked out Stephanie Kelton and MMT. So it's like, it's not even that we need the revenue to pay for things. We can already pay for things. We can create money out of thin air, magic. We can print it out. So, and it's not backed by anything. And so look, we don't really need that money to pay for stuff. As I said, what we need to do is start eliminating some of that money. That's what taxing is taxing basically eliminates that money, gets it out of existence. So that's the whole purpose of taxation. So, and it's not to pay for things. But anyway, okay. So now let's move on here. Let's see. I don't know if I have any more super chats first. I did want to answer a question, and I shouldn't. But let's see. Hold on here. Okay. There we go. Wanted to answer a question from earlier. I'm trying to find it here. About what I get from YouTube, right? And TYT. So I'm not actually supposed to say how much of a cut, but they do take a cut. So, again, I don't get paid by the Young Turks. That's why I need you guys. But some of the ad revenue that this channel makes does end up going to the Young Turks. So, and that's how it works with all the network partners. So you have, Majority Report with Sam Cedar. You have Secular Talk, Kyle Kalinske, of course, and all the channels that actually do end up helping the Young Turks. So, with revenue. So, again, I don't think I'm actually supposed to say how much, so I'm not going to say that. But there is something that, yeah, I do contribute. So, anyway, you can help us out, patreon.com/TYTNation. They don't touch any of that. So if you want to support the show, sign up there. All right. Anyway, now let's move on. Let's go to the Pelosi story. Okay, hold on. That's not the right bar. Here we go. All right. So Nancy Pelosi considers herself a progressive. Now that is hilarious, right? Now recently she had an interview with 60 Minutes, and in it she dismissed the left wing of the party, progressives in the party, while also claiming to be a progressive in the party. Look, I'll let you guys take a look for yourselves.
You are contending with a group in Congress. Over here on the left flank are these self-described socialists. On the right, these moderates. And you yourself said that you're the only one who can unify everybody. And the question is, can you?
By and large, whatever orientation they came to Congress with, they know that we have to hold the center, that we have to go down the mainstream.
They know that?
They do.
But it doesn't look like that. It looks as if it's fractured. You have these wings, AOC, and her group on one side.
That's like 5 people.
No, it's the progressive group. It's more than
Well,
5.
I'm a progressive, yeah.
Oh my God. So, what about the people that are left to you? Oh, it's only like 5 people. No, I love Leslie Stahl. She's like, no, it's not. No, they're progressives. What are you talking about? I'm a progressive. No, you're not progressive. Are you kidding me? Okay, so question for Nancy, right? So what's the last progressive policy that you backed? Was it Medicare for all? Well, I've got your answer on Medicare for all. Free college for everybody? No, I don't think so. In fact, in the interview, she was asked about Medicare for all. Here's her response. Quote, the Affordable Care Act is better than Medicare. There's no question about that. The Affordable Care Act benefits are better. Now, notice there she said Medicare, not Medicare for all. You know why? Because that would be a lie. You would know, if you read it, that the Sanders bill, Medicare for all, single payer, is much more comprehensive in coverage than the Affordable Care Act. You would know that if you read the bill, which I think is obvious that you did not. It covers vision, dental, reproductive, prescription drugs, mental health. It's just some of the things that it covers. In fact, there are a lot of people that have went through and have done some very in-depth breakdowns of what's actually in that bill. It is far more comprehensive than what we have now, and it has the benefit of not having anything come out of your pocket. So no out-of-pocket costs, no co-pays, no deductibles. There is some particular things that are prescription drugs, but you actually can't pay anything more than $200 for a copay for some specific named medications, but it can't be over $200 a year out of pocket. A year! There are people paying $1,000 a month to get their insulin. That would not happen under Medicare for all. So now, if you don't back any of those other policies, then how can you make the claim that you're a progressive? Well, you can't. You can't make that claim. Because guess what? People are going to call you out on it. Because it's not true. You can't say also, oh, you don't understand. We got to hold the center, right? Well, who's the center? You're working with the extreme right. They're massively to the right. And you're basically dissing on the people who should actually be considered the center because you know what? They're with the majority of the country. You can't call yourself progressive. No. Pelosi protects people like Joe Manchin, right? Joe Manchin votes overwhelmingly with Donald Trump. And then, just recently, news came out that he endorsed Suzanne Collins. He just straight up went out and endorsed a Republican. But he's not the first one. Joe Biden has also endorsed a Republican, actually supported a Republican over a Democratic, a candidate here in Michigan, supported him over Matt Longjohn. Then you also have Robert Francis O'Rourke that supported a Republican. So you have these so-called Democrats that are saying, oh, no, we must vote blue no matter who and all that stuff. Now they're saying, well, unity, and we need to work together with the Republicans. No, we don't. I don't want to work together with Mitch McConnell. I don't want to work together with Kevin McCarthy. I don't want to work together with the extreme right wing. Maybe they get dragged back to the actual center into reality, then we'll work with them, but not beforehand. And look, again, she's trying to work with Donald Trump on immigration. I think we can work together with Trump on immigration. Really? The guy who's okay with baby jails, who doesn't think that baby jails were strong enough and has let Stephen Miller basically dictate policy for DHS. That's the person you want to work with. Because you work with Donald Trump, you're working with Stephen Miller. And who's got all these horrific ideas when it comes to immigration. You want to work with him. How terrible are these establishment Democrats? And look, here's the thing, right? Again, she considers herself a moderate, right? No, in reality, Nancy Pelosi is right wing. And just look at the minimization of the new women of color that have come in. Women like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She wouldn't even stand up for Ilhan Omar. Really, against Donald Trump. Not that much anyway. Again, she's literally getting death threats. And now, finally, after President Trump attacked her, tied her to 9/11, now she's like, oh, maybe we should look into getting some security for Representative Omar. Oh, now you're looking into it. Not when she was getting attacked before massively by the right wing, which, by the way, you helped spur on by not protecting her and actually also accusing her of being anti-Semitic. Ridiculous. Again, these establishment Democrats are terrible. And look, Waleed Shahid, who's communication director for Justice Democrats, by the way, had a response to this. Let me read that for you. He said, quote, "That's quite a way to welcome a new generation of mostly progressive women of color entering the Democratic Party who are activating young people, people of color, and working class voters of all backgrounds." But see, that's endemic of the Democratic old guard. They don't care about bringing in new people if their beliefs are somewhat more progressive. They don't care about progressives. They despise progressives. They're not interested in those voters, unless, of course, they can shame and bully into voting for centrist, neoliberal establishment candidates. She is interested in keeping her power, the status quo. And again, that keeps her in power, in privilege, and it keeps her rich, most importantly. And that's why she's disconnected with regular people and doesn't understand why people like AOC and Tlaib and the others have gotten so much attention. She despises them for not waiting their turn. Well, they shouldn't have to wait their turn. You know why? Because they represent us. They represent the people. And if you're going to tell the people that they need to wait their turn, it's not going to get a good result. Okay. No, man. So, this is going to be a long ride. Strap in, guys. I'm going to try to get through this segment as fast as we can. Okay. So, Senator Bernie Sanders is now fed up with attacks from centrist Democrats, and he has decided to fight back. Now, recently I showed you guys a video where Think Progress had basically called Bernie Sanders a hypocrite for making money off sales of his book. Now, Think Progress, by the way, is an arm of the Center for American Progress, which touts itself as a liberal think tank. But in reality, they're not necessarily all that liberal. They're more centrist than anything, and they take money from corporate Democrats. Now, in a letter to the Center for American Progress, Sanders has said that the group has both unfairly criticized him, but not just him, but also Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Cory Booker. He said, "I and other Democratic candidates are running campaigns based on principles and ideas and not engaging in mudslinging or personal attacks on each other," which apparently is not what the Center for American Progress is doing. And especially not Neera Tanden. She's one of the harshest Bernie critics over the last few years, saying some ridiculous things, terrible things about Senator Sanders, retweeting some terrible people. I don't necessarily want to give them any shout-outs here, but a lot of people who are paying attention on social media, you know who they are. Not only that, but he also adds, meanwhile, the Center for American Progress is using its resources to smear Senator Booker, Senator Warren, and myself, among others. This is hardly the way to build unity or to win the general election. Now, these, again, the people that are criticizing Bernie Sanders are the same ones that are screaming, "Oh, we need to have unity, 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 unity." And in their same breath, they're also saying, "But he's not even a Democrat. He's not even a Democrat. We need unity, not even a Democrat." Okay, that's the way you want to build unity. Fine. There's more. Sanders also wrote that the group recently published an article on Think Progress that criticized him, quote, "for his appearance and for the income that he earned from writing a book." Then, a day later, he says, "You published a video that dishonestly attacked me for hypocrisy in my efforts to address income inequality in America. Now, again, I showed you guys that video on Friday, and I don't have enough time to show it to you today. So, look, these attacks, notice how they're missing one thing, policy. They're not talking about policy. No, they're talking about, oh, look at Bernie Sanders. He made money, and he's talking about taxing the rich. Yeah, he's going to tax himself. And they also talk about, well, he's so unkempt. Oh, I'm sorry he doesn't have perfectly coiffed hair like Robert Francis O'Rourke or Pete Buttigieg. Which, by the way, they do have nice hair. I'm actually not knocking them at all. But that's not the point. The point here should be policy. Policy, policy, policy. And on that, this is where attacks have come at Senator Cory Booker and Elizabeth Warren. In fact, Sanders adds that the group unfairly targeted Warren in 2017 and 2018, as well as Booker earlier this year, for teaming up with Sanders on a prescription drug bill. That bill would have allowed the U.S. to import cheaper prescription drugs from Canada. Now, there's only two people that are harmed by that. Two groups. Prescription drug companies and politicians who are bribed by prescription drug companies. And apparently, add on to that, think tanks that are funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Why would you attack Booker for that? That's a good policy, saves money. Or go after Elizabeth Warren for for promoting detailed policy proposals to take on wealth and income inequality. Unless yourself don't believe in that. Maybe that's why. And why would a so-called progressive think tank be against bold progressive ideas? Maybe it's because they're actually not in favor of those ideas, and they're not in favor because they get corporate funding. Now, Sanders ends by saying, quote, I will be informing my grassroots supporters of the foregoing concerns that I have about the role CAP is playing. Should your actions evolve in the coming months, I'm happy to reconsider what kind of partnership we can have. So, now CAP, of course, responded to this almost immediately, saying, oh, no, we're a research institution focused on ideas and policy. Really? No, apparently, look, from what I've seen, their focus is on trying to be less progressive and put out less progressive policy. You know, their big idea now, Medicare for All Extra, which actually is a public health, a public option for healthcare. No big change, just opening up a public option. Now, that would have been progressive in, say, 2000. Hell, Hillary Clinton, back in her younger days, when she tried to get universal health care, was more progressive than the position that the Center for American Progress is taking in 2019. Back in the 90s, Hillary Clinton was more progressive than they are. Give me a break. More. They said it is editorially independent of both CAP and CAP Action and has been for years, talking about Think Progress. We do not suggest, edit, approve, or see their stories before publishing, and in this particular instance, no one at CAP or CAP Action knew about this article or video's existence before publication. Indeed, Think Progress publishes articles with which we disagree. We cannot and will not muzzle Think Progress, an editorial independent journalistic enterprise, and we believe it's wrong for any political leader to demand it do so. Now, who's talking about muzzling, right? What they're talking about is dishonest attacks and smears against the Democratic front runner. By the way, new Emerson poll out has Bernie Sanders leading nationally over Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders is the Democratic frontrunner. Bernie Sanders is the Democratic frontrunner, and you are attacking him in a very disingenuous way. You want to go after his policies? That's absolutely fine. But calling him disheveled and then saying, oh, he's a hypocrite for actually making money from his book, that's ridiculous. All right, more. So now the whole question here is Center for American Progress, are they actually independent? And CAP says, well, absolutely they are. We don't say anything. However, according to some former employees of the Center for American Progress, or at least of Think Progress, I get them confused a little bit at this point, said this. Now, this is Benjamin Armbruster, who wrote a Twitter thread on this. He said, I was the National Security News vertical editor which no longer exists at Think Progress from roughly 3 years, from 2011 to 2014. In late 2011, early 2012, we were smeared by the right-wing pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC, and their allies as pro-Iran anti-Semites because we were writing stories that were critical of the Israeli government policies that make the two-state solution more difficult, and writing pieces critical of going to war with Iran and supportive of diplomacy with Iran. Instead of vigorously defending our work, the Center for American Progress, led by Neera Tanden, mildly backed us at first, but behind the scenes, Neera and others began monitoring and censoring our work on Iran and Israel. So that is on behalf of the Israeli government. Now you could say, look, that is a policy position that's personal, right? Doesn't have anything to do with money, right? Well, I don't know about that. We'll see. Now, a few months before, in the fall of 2011, and this hasn't been reported before, Armbruster says, a senior NatSec staffer demanded that we stop writing about Saudi human rights violations because a Saudi prince was in town, and this staffer was attempting to solicit donations. Let's go to Intercept writer Zed Jalani, who also wrote a thread on this. They said, Think Progress has many independent-minded writers. And by the way, this segment is not attacking those people, right? So I'm not attacking the independent writers. What I'm trying to do here is point out that basically what they have is an oversight system that are forcing some of these people to write articles or to censor some pieces or to write certain opinion pieces, like the attacks against Bernie Sanders. And now, back to Jelani here. The larger issue is that corporations and foreign governments get access to CAP's policymaking process, and CAP has high government access. Stories I wrote for the Intercept demonstrated how the UAE used CAP staff to lobby the Trump administration as it was funding the Center for American Progress. The head of Center for American Progress, Neera Tanden, once scolded me for writing a blog post noting that Michael Bloomberg partner was drawing the salary for Zuccotti Park. She noted that CAP was soliciting Bloomberg as a donor. So much for being independent. There's more. Center for American Progress also helped short-circuit debate amongst Democrats because despite its 501c3 status, many of its staffers want to work in administrations. They, for instance, reined me in on Afghanistan because Obama, White House opposed my view. It was a regular occurrence when I worked at CAP for corporate donors or party elites to complain to our leadership and get us chewed out for what we were writing. He asks, how can a think tank think when it isn't free of influence from corporations, foreign governments, and party elites? A lot of people know this is how the CAP operates. But because it's a clearinghouse for Democratic presidential administrations and access to government more generally, most people are unwilling to publicly talk about it. Washington's access culture is suffocating them. Now, he adds that this has been going on for years. So, look, does this sound like they're independent? They're not the only ones that are going to be speaking up. I'm sure there are more people. But see, again, this is why I say that the Center for American Progress is a misnomer. They're not for progress. They're corporate funded. They're going to continue to bring in the status quo and of course, court big corporate donors. That's why they can't be against Medicare for all. Or I'm sorry, that's why they're against Medicare for all. That's why they can't be for single payer. That's why they can't be for disrupting the industry, disrupting some of the politics that we have. It's because there are corporate donors that are interested in keeping the status quo, and they will donate to the Center for American Progress, and Think Progress will continue to be influenced by those corporate donations. It's sad. And so this isn't to go after some of the reporters, and the people that write the articles that Think Progress. No, this is to go after the power structure. This is what we call the establishment. This is the establishment. This is what we're fighting against. The role of money in politics and the role of influence in these so-called think tanks. We've got to root out that corruption, or else we're never going to have real progress. Okay. That's it. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you for going on The Nation with me today. You guys are fantastic. Thank you. Patreon.com/TYTNation. Very important. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, Nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.